What's up, YouTube fam? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about how I lost $2,200 today and how I plan to make it back, what I'm going to do, how I'm not panicking, etc. So basically, if you've been with me from the beginning, then you would know the whole journey. But for the people who haven't, I'll just go through it quick. We started on November 6th. We've grown it to 25.2 within, 40 days. We were up 26%. It was very smooth sailing. And since then, we've been on an absolute whirlwind. Now, the reason why we were on the whirlwind has been mainly because of this position on CONL. So let me just pull up the chart. So basically, we started selling puts right around this level. And, I was pretty much putting the majority of the account into each individual position. I will say that. So this was the first time where I really learned to diversify the account more. Now, listen, I know you might be thinking, what am I, a rookie? But it's actually the opposite. I've actually had failures from too much diversification in the past. And I'll give you an example, was just buying everything and anything, right? You start to learn that over time. And one of my favorite books, The Zurich Axioms, talks about why over diversification isn't good, but you start to realize why under diversification also isn't good. So I kind of needed to see for myself both, because the way my portfolio for the most part is managed currently is it's in like 5 or 6 different assets and then a bunch of other things. But ultimately, when it comes to selling options, I was trying the strategy of basically this no diversification method. Now, with that being said, Coinbase was always one of my top choices. It was too expensive for this account size, and CONL seemed like a good choice. Now, looking back at, you could say this looked like a bear flag, or if you go and look at crypto, you can say, it looked like it was going to go down. But the reality is, trying to trade it, trying to figure that out, trying to time the market. I have plenty of stories of me selling my crypto and then it going up and it just being a devastating day. And, I'm just not really interested in that. So ultimately, I took this position, and obviously this was the strike, was 55. Ultimately, it took this big fall. And what's crazy is yesterday, when it was all the way up here, we were the account was at 24,000 basically. It hit, I know it touched 24,000 at times, but I guess the highest it'll show here is 23.9. And, I could look back and say, I should have got out while I could. But in the moment, I'm really just looking at getting all of this. So there was still 2,500 left in premium to collect. Now, with that being said, it does make you realize that rolling is great, but when you think about it, yes, you are still deep in the money. So there are moments where maybe I should have, a moment like yesterday, maybe I could have taken some contracts off because I had the opportunity to get out and have, 24,000. But of course, I was thinking about if I hold a little longer, I'll have 26,700. So these are the mental games of trading, right? This is the mental aspect that is very difficult. And I'm not going to beat myself up over the fact that I didn't get out at the top, right? I'm not going to have those expectations for myself. Like, it just doesn't even make sense to try to do that, right? So I've been there, I've done that. Ultimately, in terms of how I plan to make it back, for now with that position, just continue to hold. And with RGTI, the same thing. I'm not afraid to admit when I made a mistake. And RGTI, listen, they have incredible premiums, but when you look at their earnings, it doesn't look great. Now, obviously, again, you can say, this looked bearish. A lot of times this type of candle is actually a bear trap. It's like a lot of times that high wick candle ends up getting ran through, as you see all the way at the bottom, and then you see it again here. So ultimately, this is still something that can get ran through. I still love the 16 strike on this stock. I think my only regret was not, ultimately it's good to sell positive financials, right? Like when you look at their earnings and you see it's in the negative, and you look at the revenue and you see it decreasing, this is just not the type of stock ultimately you want to be selling options on. So I'm not going to panic out of this position either, because in the end of the day, IonQ fell as well, and other stocks in their industry were falling. So it's not like this is a one-off situation. So ultimately, what really only makes me really concerned and panic, right? I'm sure a lot of you are watching your portfolios down tons of money and you're panicking. The only thing that should make you panic is if the asset you're invested in is falling on its own, right? If its entire sector is falling, then you really shouldn't be panicking, because that's just how the world goes, right? The world goes in cycles. If you're in an asset that's falling when its sector is doing really well, that is when you want to throw some red flags. So, that's all I'll say about those two positions, right? There's really nothing that's making me so worried. If I have to roll, I'll roll on both of them. RGTI at least has, weekly options, so it's a lot more liquid than CONL, because CONL, it's like we are kind of stuck in that position of not having options to continue to roll into. So, that's one of my only regrets with this position. Obviously, oversizing as well. Like, I do think the position of RGTI is a position size I'm very comfortable with too. Like, even, listen, I don't want to die for this stock. And the way I look at rolling, it's almost like, this line is like your wall, right? It's like, imagine you're in a Game of Thrones war and you have like the white line as your wall. And as the enemy forces push on you, you have the ability to back up and back up and back up until eventually, they run out of soldiers, and then you can kind of move it up and move it up, and ultimately, I guess you can say, win the battle, get out of the trade for profit. So with a stock like RGTI, it's not necessarily a stock I want to go to war for, but, at this point, there's nothing to do, right? We'll wait until tomorrow, see what the market presents us, and take, our opportunity to do what we can there. If we're still holding, if we're exiting, whatever the case is, we do have 10 more days on it. So assuming, the bulls get some sort of bounce, especially above 16, we should be able to get out for profit, if not break even. So I'm not worried. There's really nothing that has me worried. Ultimately, I think we'll be able to make the 2200 back very quick. I think we'll be able to get back to 26.7, ultimately create new highs on this account and continue where we're heading. We only started on November 6th. The goal was 100% per year. I know some of you have laughed at it, but at this point, there's really nothing about what's going on that makes me feel doubtful that we're going to hit it. And believe me, I don't really care about hitting the goal on this account. It's a law of detachment aspect, and if you're still watching this video, you're going to learn probably the most important, thing in these markets is law of detachment, because overanalyzing positions will cause you to miss positions, right? And what people don't realize is the amount of positions you might miss could double your account, so that when you do eventually have an underanalyzed loss, it doesn't even matter, right? Or sometimes you'll overanalyze and still lose. So to me, I don't like to overanalyze either. What I like to do is just detach and put myself in a position where I'm not so worried, I'm not panicking, and I can let it happen naturally. So ultimately, with this RGTI position, is it the greatest position in the world to be in right now? Absolutely not. It's knocking on the door of our strike, but there's really nothing about me that's panicking. And with CONL as well, there's just nothing about me concerned. And I see us making this money back very quickly. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you got some lessons learned from my mistakes so you don't have to make them, and have an amazing continued journey selling options, whatever it is you're doing in the markets. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, make sure to show some love, comment, please just continue to just watch the videos, because I'll make them. I'll talk to myself if I have to, but I love knowing that there's people learning and growing from this content. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.